Welcome to the Carl Jackson Show, your daily dose of objective truth in a world of confusion and lies. Guys, the Ireland riots are a bad omen for Americans, but particularly for Christian Americans. I'm going to explain why. There's been a crime spike in Europe, an anti-Christian crime spike. Also, there's been a flood of immigration or illegal immigration that has impacted the country of Ireland. A lot of the residents are fed up, and they finally said they had enough after a stabbing occurred last week. I'm going to connect the dots here. You're not going to want to miss this program. Make sure that you stay tuned. We are brought to you by MyPillow.com. MyPillow.com, an American company, American manufacturing, American products. Go to the radio podcast score, click on my name, or actually spell out my name, Carl, and then a plethora of deals will be available to you for the Christmas season. Deals up to 60% off in many cases. American jobs, American manufacturing, 10-year warranty, 60-day money-back guarantee on all of My Pillow products, or give them a call, 800-858-0263. Let's dive right in. Let's dive right into this. All right, so last week, the riots erupted in Ireland when there were 5 people that were stabbed. 3 people were children by an Algerian. We'll get into that, but what we want to do right now is show you a couple of the videos. For those of you that do subscribe to the podcast, you can check out the videos right here on YouTube.com. Also on rumble.com if you want to watch the video as well as hear us. So Gabe has been working hard to get these videos up and running. Let's go ahead and roll them, Gabe. This is the reaction to, and listen, I'm not condoning this in any way, shape, or form. UFC fighter, former champion Connor McGregor has sounded off, and now you have the Irish government coming after him, trying to investigate him. We'll dive into that a little bit as well. But here's some of the aftermath after the stabbing, where the Irish residents, they're just getting fed up. They're getting fed up with the immigration, both from Ukraine and from Middle Eastern countries. There's a housing shortage there. They're having homelessness problems. They're having joblessness problems. And a lot of the native Irelands don't want to have to compete with immigrants that are flooding their country. And honestly, this stuff is going to keep building. And it's going to continue to percolate, not just in places like Ireland, but we're starting to see it here. You may see it in sentiments of anti-Semitism that we're seeing, anti-Jewism, as we're seeing across the country right now in the United States of America. They're simmering on these college campuses, but all of that is going to be extended. I'm telling you, the left has done a doozy on the American people. A lot of these youngsters coming up that are attending college, many that have already graduated and are in the workforce, that are in corporate America, they hate Jews, they hate America, they hate Christians, and I'm telling you, what you see happening right now in Ireland is an omen as to what's coming to America. For all of you Christians that have sat in the pews for God knows how long and said, we've got to preach the gospel, but you let the culture go, guess what? The culture is coming back to bite you in the booty. That is exactly what's going to happen. I'm going to give you some stats that are absolutely astounding that no one seems to be talking about. But we're going to talk about it here. Gabe, let's go ahead and roll the video, por favor. All right, so this is a rioter. I'm not going to call him a protester. You set the cop's car on fire. You are a certified rioter in my book. You're no longer a protester, all right? That crosses the line. I'm not condoning any of this stuff. But obviously there are sentiments brewing in Ireland where these people are getting fed up with the immigration problem, and sadly, like we're seeing not just in America but in different places across or around the globe, this is how people are venting their frustrations. I think this is very dumb. Ultimately, it's not the rich that are destroyed by these riots. Ultimately, it's the people that are hurt by these riots anyway, but it's the people that live in these neighborhoods, businesses that operate in these neighborhoods ultimately are the ones that are going to be hurt. But people are fed up. Let's go ahead and roll the other video, Gabe, once you get that ready. And then what they did as well is they apparently the rioters, let me make sure that I get this right. So See, my producer sent it to it earlier, but in another video that we'll be setting up for you, or Gabe will be setting up for you, another hotel is set on fire in Dublin, Ireland. So the citizens set fire to the Holiday Inn that is used to house immigrants following the violent stabbing of the 3 children. And I don't know why I didn't get the video. That I actually saw some of the video of the guys going around and stabbing people. Just absolutely disgusting and scary. But this is what's happening as a result. And these are people that are just saying to their politicians, dude, wake up. Stop allowing, just these open border policies that are essentially damaging our culture, making it harder to find jobs and a place to stay, a roof over our heads. It's impacting these people. Now, I want you to hear a couple. Did you already roll that video, Gabe? I'm sorry. I'm sitting here. I'm doing 2 things. All right. So let's go ahead and roll this video. So this are the rioters that are setting a Holiday Inn on fire. This is a Holiday Inn, again, that they say immigrants are being pushed to stay in or what have you. Again, I want to make sure that I get this wording right. But basically, the immigrants are staying in. So let's go ahead and roll that video, Gabe. Yeah, they set fire to a Holiday Inn that is used to house immigrants. Wow. I mean, you can only pray that no one was inside, or the building was evacuated. I hope. I don't condone any of that, but I suspect that more of this is going to happen as people just feel like they've lost control of their government. This is what happens when people feel like they lose control. Well, Carl, isn't that what happened with the Black Lives Matter? No. That, in my opinion, the Black Lives Matter riots, Antifa riots, those were bought and paid for. Those were completely organized. Those were not grassroots. We found out that the founders of Black Lives Matter, all of them, including Patrice the Concolors, were all complete frauds, getting rich off of BLM and basically campaigning, if you will, for the Democrat Party and operating as their little brown shirts as well. That's what was happening there. But this is actual grassroots. This is people getting fed up. And obviously, you're going to have more people that probably get involved in these riots and protesting that just want to be a part of it. There's no doubt about that. There's a certain element of that is occurring in places like Dublin, Ireland. But again, this is an omen of what's to come in the United States. But here's what happens when you have leaders like this. Gabe, let's go ahead and roll the video. This is one of Ireland's leaders. I believe this is their prime minister. Talking about, the prime minister. He says the protesters against the stabbing brought shame to Ireland. Not the violent not the violent jihadists that actually stabbed the children, but it's the protesters that brought shame to Ireland, and not the weak politicians like this guy. Let's go ahead and roll this video.
To all those cowardly champions of Ireland who took to the streets of Dublin last night, let me say one thing. Ask your sisters, ask your friends, ask everyone you know what they fear most on our streets. They're afraid of you, afraid of your anger and your rage, afraid of your violence, your hate, and how you blame others for your problems. As a government, we will be relentless in protecting our citizens and defending our people. The Gardaí will be on the streets in large numbers and will do whatever it takes to fight back waves of ignorance and criminality. The Minister for Justice will coordinate with the Commissioner to ensure we never witness such terrible scenes as the 23rd of November 2023 ever again.
Okay, so that's one of Ireland's leaders. Apparently that is their prime minister, blaming the citizens, not himself, for their immigration policies. Let's go ahead and roll this last video, Gabe. This is, who is this chick? This chick speaks out and basically, man, what does she have to say? I'm sorry, guys. I pulled a lot of these videos up and Gabe got them ready for me at the very last second. That's why you can hear Gabe just kind of frowning in the background. Even though you can't see him, you can actually hear his frown like on screen. But I'm sorry, I'm just scrolling through here. Oh, man. And now, okay, I'm sorry. All right, so this is Ireland Green Party's Pauline Galway, I guess, says democracy is all about limiting your freedom in case someone else gets offended. This is, you already know what this is. If you're listening to this show, you know what this is. This is exactly where we're headed in the United States. That's why I say this is a bad omen for, again, it's for the American people in general. But I'm telling you right now, for all of the weak Christians that have said, and pastors that have sat in the pulpits and preached the gospel, which, listen, we are called to preach the gospel, right? That is the good news of Jesus Christ. That is the good news that Jesus Christ took on our sins. He took our sin. He took our punishment on his back, right? That is the good news. We get to go to heaven because of Jesus, not because of anything we've done, not because of who we are. We are despicable, sinful people, except for the blood of Jesus Christ. Only he was able to make the sacrifice that satisfied God the Father, that would allow us into heaven, because we're too evil and we're too wicked. It is as simple. It is as simple as that. But what you see here, this is a warning sign that government and politicians like this lady are trying to replace God in the culture. And this is a bad omen of what's going to happen in the United States, because I fear that Christians have solely focused on pulpit preaching instead of speaking out in the culture. Oh, we can't touch politics. So Christians can go everywhere else in society, right? Christians can be doctors. Christians can be, lawyers. Christians can be bakers or construction workers, or, you name it, any other profession. Oh, but when it comes to politics, Christians should stay out of the square. As if Jesus did that. We have Romans 13, for God's sakes, that instructs us how to operate with the government. We have Jesus that roamed the Roman Empire and showed us how to I don't even know how to explain this, but how to operate in the world system. We're to be in the world, not of the world, but we're not to be totally absent, for God's sakes. This is insane to me. It drives me nuts. And the reason why America is so great, in my opinion, is because we have the freedom of speech. We have the freedom of thought, our First Amendment, and they are trying to take it away. And when the Christians aren't there sounding the alarm, guess who's going?
When you think about it, all law, all legislation is about the restriction of freedom. That's exactly what we're doing here, is we are restricting freedom, but we're doing it for the common good. You will see throughout our Constitution, yes, you have rights, but they are restricted for the common good. Everything needs to be balanced. And if your views on other people's identities go to make their lives unsafe, insecure, and cause them such deep discomfort that they cannot live in peace, then I believe that it is our job as legislators to restrict those freedoms for the common good.
All right, so restrict the freedoms from the common good. All right, let's just dive into that for a split second here. All right, restrict freedoms for the common good. For whose common good? Who gets to restrict those freedoms? How is it that certain people's freedoms might be, take priority over others? What happens when Christians are the ones that are being persecuted? Does she still believe that same thing, this lady of the Green Party in Ireland? Does she? I seriously doubt it. It's fascinating to me that whenever we see politicians that are that are advertising, if you will, for censorship, it always goes one way. It's never about censoring the left. It's never about censoring Muslims. It's always about, seemingly to me, censoring people of faith, censoring people that are more conservative leaning or libertarian leaning. It's never about censoring the left. Why? Because these people tend to be leftists. Because we've allowed them to take over our institutions, not just in Ireland, but right here in the United States of America. Think about this. Have you guys heard about this? This broke earlier. I got some stuff that I want to get to, but this broke earlier. I want to make sure that I share it. Basically, the terrorists, Hamas, have violated the ceasefire in Gaza. Let me just go through this real quick because this broke right before we began recording today. Hat tip Daily Wire: terrorists violate temporary ceasefire in Gaza as Israeli forces come under attack. This is to be expected. Honestly, listen, I understand that there's a lot of pressure behind the scenes that Biden and his administration, Tony Blinken, John Sullivan, and all of these people are putting on the Israeli government, Benjamin Netanyahu, IDF, so on, etc., etc., etc. If Israel wants to exist, they will ignore Biden. Biden is a complete disaster. He's been a foreign policy disaster. All you have to do is look at the Afghanistan withdrawal. The world is on fire since this man has come into office. Everyone knows he's a walking, talking dummy, a dementia patient. They know that he's a puppet. They get it. And they're taking full advantage of it. From Xi Jinping in China, North Korea, Putin, the Middle East, Hamas, all of these people, Iran, all of them are on the march as a result of Biden being in the White House. So why would Israel, in their right mind, listen to Biden when they know he doesn't have their best interests at heart? No one in the Democrat Party does. The Democrat Party has proven that they are anti-Jewish, that they are anti-Zionist. They've proven that. And they've risen up brown shirts to prove it. They'll get violent with you right here in the United States. So what you see happening in Ireland, and again, I'm going to go over these anti-Christian hate crimes that have spiked up in Ireland and elsewhere. It's going to happen here in the United States. All right, hat tip Daily Wire real quick. The IDF said on Tuesday that terrorists have violated the temporary ceasefire in Gaza after its forces came under attack in multiple locations over the last 3 hours, or over the last hour, 3 explosive devices were detonated adjacent to IDF troops in 2 different locations in northern Gaza, violating the framework of the operational pause. In one of the locations, terrorists also opened fire at the troops who responded with fire. All right. Now the article goes on. A number of soldiers were lightly injured during the incident. The statement added, IDF troops were located in positions as per the framework of the operational pause. All right. Okay, so that's basically it. Now, let me share with you what I was going to report to you before this all happened. This is from Breitbart. Sorry, forgive me here. I'm scrolling through. I ran out of ink on my printer. I'm just having a real moment, maybe a little TMI here, but I ran out of ink. So a lot of times I'll have my notes, I'll have them printed out, I'll have stuff highlighted, so they just trigger thoughts in my mind so I can kind of flow here. But I ran out of ink, and so I'm stuck like Chuck. All right, so anyway, I've got a lot of these things pulled up on my phone. Hat tip Breitbart report: Hamas has lost track of some Israeli hostages abducted in the terror attack. I don't think they... It's okay. It's possible. It's clearly possible. Basically, what this article is saying is there are at least 40 hostages that Hamas claims they have no idea where these people are. All the while, they've been negotiating with Israel to release hostages. And now, oops, we don't know where 40 people are. And there's apparently so many factions in Gaza, not just the Palestine Islamic Jihad, not just Hamas, but other terrorist organizations. And quite frankly, individuals that are just evil. Because why? Because they live in Gaza. And they're being taught in their schools about how to kill Jews and how Jews are evil. And how they should get close enough to Jews, so that they can eventually kill more of them. That's what they're being taught in their schools in Gaza. All right. And so this should come as no surprise. It isn't just Hamas, apparently. It isn't just the Palestine Islamic Jihad. Apparently, there's just individuals that, they just hate Jews in Gaza. And so they decided to kidnap them too. So they don't know where at least 40 hostages are. I suspect this is... Listen, this was always going to happen. I don't know why. This is why you don't negotiate with terrorists. In my mind, what Israel should have done, and obviously they know the situation better than I do being on the ground, but just in general, I do not believe in negotiating with terrorists. I don't. Israel, they are great people. You've seen Elon Musk. He went to Israel the other day. He watched the video. This was reported yesterday. He watched the 44 minutes or so of video that was all Hamas video of the atrocities that they committed, the horrible crimes that they committed and they perpetrated. He even came to the conclusion, listen, Israel doesn't want it. The difference between Israel and I'm paraphrasing here, the difference between Israel and Hamas is he watched those videos and he saw how happy killing innocent civilians made the terrorists. Whereas he said the difference between them and between Israel and the IDF is Israel takes no pleasure in having to kill civilians, and they go out of their way to make sure that as that few civilians or as few civilians as possible are killed when they are going after Hamas. There's a big difference, and they take no pleasure in it whatsoever. So those are just some stories that I think needed to be heard. Listen, you've got to defeat evil wherever it exists. Otherwise, it's going to get to a point where we're going to start looking like Israel if we don't start fighting back against the evil threat that is Islamic, in my opinion, Islamic terrorism. That's also, China and the Communist Party and secularism taking over society and culture. I know Christians have, I don't believe that God called us to be victims. And I really do believe that that's the mindset in America. Now, here's what's happened. Just a couple of stories that I know you heard about that I want to make sure that I bring your attention to as well. And again, I was printing this out the other day, and unfortunately, or actually this morning, before I realized that I was running out of ink. But former UFC champion and native Connor McGregor is under investigation by the Ireland government for online hate speech, quote unquote, linked to comments that he made on social media criticizing the Irish authorities that you just heard in the videos that we played, or at least, some of the authorities that are amongst them for their handling of the suspected Algerian immigrant that stabbed 5 people, again, including 3 children last week. McGregor said of one of Ireland's most famous citizens with, he has 60 million followers, and he weighed in on X, and he said to the Ireland of the attack, hey, Ireland, quote, we are at war, close quote. That's what he had to say. He said, do not let any Irish property be took over unannounced. He also said, evaporate said property. It's a war. And then we saw the violence that erupted in the capital, Dublin. Those were some of the videos that we showed you after the the alleged assailant, stabbed 5 people, again, including 2 adults, 3 children, as young as 5 years old. That was near a school right in the city center. According to Daily Wire, all but, here we go. I'm sorry, I lost. All but one of the victims in the attack reportedly continue to receive medical treatment. The night of violence resulted in the arrest of at least 34 of the approximately 500 rioters. The Irish Garda Commissioner Drew Harris labeled the Dublin riots as, quote, disgraceful scenes. So the riots and the people are disgraceful scenes, and I don't agree with rioting, but it's amazing how they never address the elephant in the room, Islamic terrorism, or their open border policies that are causing it, and their wokeness and pandering that has caused this stuff. But this Drew Harris said the disgraceful scenes, labeled the Dublin riots as, quote, disgraceful scenes caused by a hooligan faction driven by far-right ideology, close quote. It's always the far right. We're easy scapegoat, right? The far right. The police commissioner's remarks were met with harsh criticism by Connor McGregor. He said, quote, innocent children ruthlessly stabbed by a mentally deranged non-national in Dublin, Ireland today. Our chief of police had this to say on the riots in the aftermath. Drew, not good enough. So Drew Harris is the chief of police. Drew, not good enough, Conor McGregor said. There's grave danger among us in Ireland that should never be here in the first place, and there has been zero action done to support the public. In any way, shape, or form with this frightening fact. Not good enough. Make change or make way. Ireland for the victory. God bless those attacked today, we pray. And for that, he's being investigated for hate speech. For speaking common freaking sense. That's coming here. In fact, it's already here. Last night's scenes, right now, there's just more of us that are willing to stand up, at least. All right, but last night's scenes achieved nothing toward fixing the issues we face. He said, I do understand frustrations, however, and I do understand a move must be made to ensure the change we need is ushered in and fast. I am in the process of arranging. Believe me, I am way more tactical, and I have backing. There will be change in Ireland. Mark my words, as Connor McGregor might say it. Good for him. Good for him. Standing up for his people, standing up for the nation that is Ireland. And there's more quotes that I can go on, more things that he said. Apparently, they came after him, another leader or so, and he said, blame anyone but themselves. Typical, worthless you are, Michael. So who is Michael? Worthless and spineless. Ryan Casey called you all out last week, grieving the love of his life, stolen by pond scum, and nothing but waffle from all you since. Zero action, close quote. All right, so basically Conor McGregor going off on all of them while all they're doing, all of their leaders are just making excuses for the terrorists and the immigrants that are moving in to the country. And I hate to be this way, but here's what actually I don't. All right. This is what happens when you don't follow the rule of law. This is what happens with open borders. Because when people feel like they're losing control, they react. It's one thing to have a legal immigration system. It is different when politicians open the borders and all of a sudden you have Native Americans, Irish people, I don't know what they're called, Islander, I don't know. Native Irish people competing for jobs and homes, etc., with people that shouldn't be in the country. And what does that do? It stirs up unnecessary hatred, as opposed to someone that comes in, does it the right way, and assimilates into the culture, into the job society, so on, etc. It's absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. Now, let me just read a little bit to you, and then I'm going to share with you some stats, and we'll close this bad boy out. Again, guys, please subscribe to my podcast wherever you go to get your podcast. Guys, if you would follow me on YouTube, I would certainly appreciate that. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Subscribe to my Rumble channel, and share it, please. All right? Review it or rate it, I believe. I don't know if it's called rate or review, but give us a 5. Give us the biggest score out there. That's going to help us to move up the charts. More people will be able to hear the podcast. We would certainly appreciate that. But I want to prove to you that what's happening in Ireland is an omen for American Christians, and I'll do that in a split second here. Let me just share this other article with you. And again, please forgive me. I ran out of ink, so I didn't have time to print stuff out and just highlight some of the things that I wanted to make sure that I share with you. But this was a post. This was an article from the New York Post just a couple of days ago, or a few days ago, on November 24th. Blame Ireland's migrant surge, not right-wingers, for Dublin riots. Dublin, in the 12 months leading up to April this year, 141,600 immigrants landed in Ireland. Now, that's huge. The Irish population has increased by more than 2%. If the U.S. had similar immigration, it would mean 9 million extra people. 9 million extra people. Consider this, all right? The equivalent of 9 million extra people in a span of just 12 months. Biden's open borders thus far, I think we've had somewhere between 7 to 8 million people approximately entering the United States of America. And look how it's look at the effect that it's having over the United States. Ireland essentially experienced that in 12 months. That's just insane. That's unsustainable. He says this is the highest level since the prosperous Celtic Tiger era of the 1990s. Ireland's non-nationals comprise a whopping 20% of the population. The tinderbox of immigration blew open last week in Dublin following the stabbing of a number of young children outside of the school. All right, and then the alleged perpetrator is foreign-born, but is a citizen. All right. So following the Russian invasion of Ukraine, Ireland had a surge of 100,000 Ukrainian refugees. Ukrainian refugees receive more than $200 a week from the Irish state. So all of a sudden you get this influx of immigration and they're on welfare right away. They each get $200 a week. I don't know what the economy is. I don't know what the dollar is in Ireland compared to here. I don't know that. But all of a sudden, you get people that you weren't expecting into your country, and they're on the welfare state. How is that not going to impact the people that are the taxpayers in Ireland, the people that are in need of assistance in Ireland? This stuff is going to spill over. And that's exactly what's happening. Hat Tip Daily Signal will close it out with this. Anti-Christian hate spikes in Europe. This is the omen. It's coming here. It's coming here. You think, all right? This is why I stand up for the Jewish people, besides the fact that I am a Christian and my God is a Jewish carpenter, all right? But I know first they came for the Jew. I'm next. What makes America exceptional is we are a melting pot. E pluribus unum. People that don't understand that, from anyone, people that don't understand that, people that don't believe that, are going to destroy this country. And they're going to come for the people that do believe that. The Jewish people that believe it, the Protestants that believe it, the Catholics that believe it, even some of the Muslims that believe it. Although I believe that's fewer in number, in my opinion. All right. But here's this from the Daily Signal. A new report is documenting a drastic rise in anti-Christian hate crimes across Europe. The Observatory on Intolerance and Discrimination Against Christians in Europe published its annual report last week, detailing a 44% increase over the course of 2022 in social hostility toward and violent acts against Christians, as well as acts of vandalism and desecration against churches. 748 anti-Christian hate crimes were committed in Europe last year, 30 of which were violent physical attacks, 3 of which were murders. Arson attacks were also more common than in years past, and churches were targeted for fire bombings and vandalism, especially in France and Germany. In fact, arson attacks nearly doubled over the course of 1 year, rising from 60 attacks in 2021 to 106 in 2022. The report noted that, quote, there had been a surge of clear extremism motivated attacks, close quote. I want to address that. The majority of these attacks, the article goes on to say, were committed by groups which with far left, satanic, Islamic, feminist, or LGBT affiliations. Okay, I want you to brace yourself. I want you to get used to something, because we use this term extremism, heard all the time. And what you hear right now is the ruffling of my Ziploc bag and my formerly fingerprinted fingertips here. I'll tell you what I'm doing. All right, as I read through stuff, sometimes I highlight stuff that I want to make sure that stays in my mind. All right, that I may want to go back over to use as a frame of reference or a talking point for later if liberals come at me or leftists come at me or whatever. But just stuff that I think that is important to remember. So it's kind of what I do. All right, that's a little TMI. That's a little off the beaten path, if you will. But just one of the things that I do. I use highlighters a lot in different colors for, I don't even know why I'm sharing this with you. Why am I sharing this with you? Shut up, Carl. Just go on. All right, but here's the deal. Here's what I want to, this word extremism. Okay, I have a problem with the word extremism in the context of politics. I've shared this many a times before. I want you to understand this about the left. And this article, speaks about very effectively by the Daily Signal, the rise in anti-Christian hate that is spiking across Europe. But it says, this is according to the report. I'm sorry. All right, so this is not Daily Signal, but according to the report, there had been a surge of clear extremism motivated attacks after I just read you the attacks of the growing quote unquote hate crimes against Christians. Guys, this isn't extremism. This is the new normal. This is the new normal for the left. Do you understand that? And it's coming here. This violence is the way that they solve their problems, because all they want is power. That's all they want. They want power. They want control. And they will beat you down like it ain't nothing in order to get that control. Do you understand? That's where America is headed. That's why I get behind this microphone, and maybe I whine, I don't know, but I just want you to get it, and I want you to share it, because we are next. Are you willing to stand up for your faith? Because you're going to have to. For all of you weak need behind Christians, you're going to have to. And guys, I'm not going to lie to you. I get scared when I think of that thought. But I pray that I am found worthy in that time, because I think it's coming. I think it's coming. Here's the first threat. Anti-Christian hate again spiking in Europe. According to the Daily Signal, in comments to the Washington Stand, Irish Freedom Party founder and President Herman Kelly said, quote, "The increase in the number of anti-Christian hate crimes is truly shocking. In a supposedly Christian continent, the presence of many millions of the Islamic faith, which preaches hatred, domination, and annihilation of all non-Muslims, has no doubt added greatly to the rise in anti-Christian violence." How do you have a Christian continent, Western civilization, if you will, where Muslims are basically running shop? It's because Christians have been weak. It's because Christians have focused on the love and the kindness of Jesus Christ, which they should, but they forgot about the other attributes of God. They forget about that God is judgment, right? They forget about God's wrath. They forget about the gospel. God has saved you through the blood of Jesus Christ from his wrath, from hell. And when you have these little watered down versions of Christianity, oh, God is so nice, everything is going to be perfect when you convert. And then you get these strong men and Muslims that come into town and say, be a man, be this, be that. You know what I'm saying? That's why people fall for the Andrew Tates of the world. They want strength. Christianity is strength. It is strength. It takes discipline. It takes restraint. It takes mental toughness. It takes spiritual toughness. At times, physical toughness. Especially when you're attacked. And we've got to start preaching like it, teaching like it, and acting like it. We can't be afraid as Christians to go out into the culture, because someone will fill that void. Either the secularists, like you saw in those videos with those Irish leaders, Muslims that hate us, or the CCP. Somebody is going to fill that void. Second threat, secularism. He added, President Herman Kelly of the Irish Freedom Party, a second spike in the anti-Christian pincer movement is that of aggressive and militant secularism of the far left. Incredibly, they find common allies and goals in the silencing of a Christian public presence and influence in European society. In its report, the Observatory on Intolerance and Discrimination Against Christians in Europe also noted a growing movement to suppress religious liberty and criminalize Christian practices. And you have to understand this. Fascists have to squash any religious dissent that puts God above government, because they have to be in control. That's why they hate people of faith. In Ireland, for example, the government, listen to this. This is evidence. The government has been promoting what the Observatory called Europe's most extreme hate speech bill, close quote. Who's getting punished? Connor McGregor. You and I. Christians, people of faith, it's coming here. It's coming here. So the government has been promoting what the Observatory called, listen to this, Europe's most extreme hate speech bill. The Criminal Justice Incitement to Violence or Hatred and Hate Offenses Act. Man, that is a mouthful. The Criminal Justice Incitement to Violence or Hatred and Hate Offenses Act would shift the burden of proof, listen to this, to the accused, who would have to demonstrate that they did not intend to spread hate. So that's what I suspect Connor McGregor is being investigated for. Did he spread hate in speaking up against the leaders that are weak in Ireland? Third thing, the bill criminalizes private materials such as memes on a phone or books on a shelf, and could potentially outlaw Christian teaching on such subjects as LGBT ideology. You don't see that happening here in America? Number 5, the bill, if enacted, would also allow police officers to obtain warrants to investigate suspected hate speech without presenting any evidence to the court whatsoever. Other European nations have also seen, quote, hate speech legislation weaponized against Christians. Catholic bishops in Spain, for instance, have been prosecuted for repeating the Catholic Church teachings on marriage and sexuality. Numerous street preachers have been arrested in the UK for allegedly causing distress to those who disagreed with Christian teachings. Remember what I told you? This stuff always falls to one side. The censorship always goes to one side. It is silence the people of God, silence the conservative movement, silence the constitutionalists in places like Ireland, silence the native citizens, silence the people that want the freedom, silence those people. It always goes to one side. It's always one-sided. It's always lopsided. I'm getting a little worked up here, forgive me. But I see this stuff coming. It's coming to the United States. Here's another one. It says, I didn't finish. I got to just finish this point. Catholic bishops in Spain have been prosecuted for repeating the Catholic Church teachings on marriage and sexuality, as well as street preachers have been arrested in the UK for causing distress, quote unquote, to those who disagreed with Christian teachings. And Finnish parliamentarian Päivi Räsänen was charged with, quote, war crimes and crimes against humanity. Why? Because he quoted scripture. Others have seen hate speech policies weaponized in areas like academia. In Ireland, school teacher Enoch Burks was dismissed from his post and eventually jailed for refusing to call a student by transgender pronouns. Welsh teacher Ben Dybowski was fired after being asked to share his Christian position on homosexuality and abortion during a confidential mandatory diversity and gender awareness training session. Number 9, UK teacher Joshua Sutcliffe was sacked for sharing his Christian views on marriage with students, and school chaplain Bernard Randall was dismissed for delivering a homily critical of the LGBT agenda. Last thing, another area of concern is abortion buffer zones. Designated areas outside of abortion facilities where prayer, protest, and pro-life counseling are legally prohibited. These buffer zones are becoming prevalent in Ireland, Germany, Spain, and the UK. Oh, and right here in America, right? We saw that with Mark Houck, right? Aren't there some ladies serving time in New York for standing, I believe, in the doorway of an abortion clinic? Here's what happens when Christians abandon culture. The culture turns on us. That's why we can't abandon the culture wars. Guys, I appreciate you tuning in to this edition of the Carl Jackson Show podcast. Again, your daily dose of objective truth in a world of confusion and lies. Again, please support our sponsor. That's the only way this continues to happen. Por favor. All right, mypillow.com. Use the promo code Carl. All right, go to the Radio Podcast Square. Click on that Radio Podcast Square. Enter my name, CARL. There will be a gang of deals that are available to you. Some upwards of 60% off. You're talking about sheets, mattresses, my slippers, my pillow, the original my pillow 2.0, you name it, dog beds, you name it. All of that stuff is there. 1-800-858-0263. Use my name, Carl. And again, find me on all things social media at The Carl Jackson Show. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. I need to see more of you on Instagram. Por favor. I'm on Facebook as well. All things social media at The Carl Jackson Show is where you can find me. Until next time, do not grow weary doing good. God bless you all.